spider friends, snoochy boochies to all of you, and welcome to Held Captive Media. Here with me today is the best boy, Cousin Ian. Welcome back. Oh, and Zane's here too, I guess. If you guys don't know, Cousin Ian here has been on other podcasts we've done in the past, really dating back to the old days. So those of you who are excited to see him again, well, here he is in the flesh.
I like how he gets the prerequisite of cousin, even though his cousin isn't actually even here.
Me and Ian are fucking family. You can feel weird about that, but that's my fucking cousin right there.
Yeah.
Well, you know, when you're here, your family.
Olive Garden.
Yeah, Olive Garden, Held Captive Media. Same difference. Anyway, guys, today we're talking about my Lord and Savior, my one hero, my inspiration, Kevin Smith, and his first film, Clerks. Clerks is about a 20-something named Dante being lost in his direction in life. Working at a convenience store with his best friend, an absolute anarchist Randall, working at the attached video store. Clerks was written and directed by Kevin Smith in 1994 and was made for a little over $27,000, all put on maxed out credit cards. When he was just 23 years old, as a matter of fact. Running on nothing but fumes and whimsy, Clerks was crafted and shot during the hours of the night at the location of Smith's real day job at the time, the Quick Stop in Leonardo, New Jersey. Then after that insane gamble made by Smith and crew, his film Clerks was eventually seen by important people, despite a lousy premiere, and the movie was purchased by Miramax. That exposure, mixed with the selling of the film, led to one of the greatest stories in independent film history, launching the career and icon that is Kevin Smith and his production company, alongside Scott Mosier, as well as countless ventures that followed. But it also delivered to people one of the best indie comedies of all time. But what Clerks ultimately did, and still does, is remind us of the ultimate customer service truth. Just because they serve you doesn't mean they like you. Clerks. Okay, I'm just going to say this as a rule for those who haven't been following me for a long time. It doesn't matter how bad or good the property is. Kevin Smith projects are a 10 out of 10 for me. So, 10 out of 10. I'm not going to explain why. I don't have to. This is my fucking opinion. But with that being said, this is a seriously great indie comedy. He really set out to make characters that sounded like him and his friends displayed on screen. And with that came like the ultimate empathy move of every nerd who's super into movies finding Clerks and being like, wow, my subculture, my film bro culture actualized. I really question whether movies like Big Lebowski or other very inside baseball, very self-referential films would have come along if not for movies like this. And of course, Richard Linklater's Slacker, which inspired Clerks and is kind of similar in a way, but definitely totally different. So we'll get into spoilers in a second. I'll dive into more about the review. But for me, Clerks is a 10 out of 10. Zane. I saw you moving that way, and I was like, you know what? He probably actually has a lot to say because he's a big Kev Smith fan like me. Let's go with the guy who's seen this movie like twice, maybe.
Yeah. So this is definitely. I love Clerks. It's such a fun time. It is definitely. It's got that air of like just outside of student film, just kind of like coming into your own as a director. I do love how patchwork a lot of the stuff is, and there's just it is the truest diagnosis of watching Clerks sets you up to watch every other Kevin Smith property because it is 110% the dialogue.
Yeah.
Everything that everybody says just feels so natural and is just such a pinnacle to how Kevin Smith has become the writer, the producer, the everything that he is now. And like his storytelling is so great. Like
it's like all wit and whimsy, right? Like when you look at a lot of other movies, you get like great direction. And I'm not saying that Kevin Smith's not a great director, but I mean, this, as producer Lacey had said before we started, was very much felt like a student film at times. And that's because in a lot of ways it was, but also Kevin Smith's strength comes within his writing because he has a general understanding and empathy of people that is really rare, and it makes him a great creative. I really do believe that.
Well, like, just as far as like, just to praise Kevin Smith, for people who might not know, my favorite DC character is Green Arrow. It's a weird choice, but it's my favorite. Kevin Smith has a Green Arrow run.
The great
that
Green Arrow
is
run.
absolutely amazing. He takes a character, Onomatopoeia, which is such a ridiculous fucking character. He makes him bone chilling.
Yeah.
Like, it is, you, like, as this character is on the page, it is upsetting how scary Onomatopoeia is made. It is done through Kevin Smith's writing, and it's just so...
Have you read Batman Cacophony or Widening Gyre, either of his Batman runs?
Yeah.
Man, people were really pissed he made Batman cry and pee his pants, but you know what? It was a great fucking scene. It was fantastic. Zane, what would you give this movie on like a number rating?
So, number rating, I do love Kevin Smith properties. I'm not where you're at, where you're going to give it a 10 out of 10 right out of the gate.
Yeah,
but
no question, 10 out of 10.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10.
That's still that's honestly still very
that's
favorable.
Still a great. That is still like, by the way, like only a few movies am I giving 9 or 10s to. But yeah, I had such a great time watching this. It absolutely deserves 8 and above. It is, especially for being, when he wrote it, 23, and just everything that has come out of it. It is a microcosm of his history, how all of that has come to grow from all of that.
Now, Ian, you were supposed to be here today, so since you are here today, your thoughts on Clerks and just Kevin Smith as a whole, without spoilers, because we'll definitely get the time to just talk shop about Kevin Smith films in the View Askew universe. But for right now, Clerks, what are your thoughts?
Honestly, straight up, I'll say 9 out of 10.
Fuck yeah.
It's honestly great. I love it being in black and white. It just made me more interested in the story that he was like writing. I know some people like
parts of it almost feel noirish. There's so many breaks with like the, there's a freeze frame and then some ridiculous word because his vocabulary is so large. Kevin Smith, he literally flaunts it all the time, but he has these chapters like ridiculously named, and it's the black and white really just adds to it, I think.
Yeah, and it like really makes you focus on like the characters and where they actually are in their life. And so like he definitely achieved his goal of like making a relatable movie. And
one of the other great parts,
and it's indie as fuck, which is great, which is the total vibe that you want.
One of the great parts that I do love about like having it be black and white, having it be shot with this like less than camera or whatever, is at no point in time are you ever going to try to watch this movie and be like, oh my God, the graphics on it are so great. It's just like, that's not the point. This isn't trying to be pretty. This isn't trying to be those other things. He knows what he wanted to accomplish, and he was like, this will get it done.
Yeah, it feels very like slice of life. Like you're literally seeing these people go about their daily routines.
Yeah, they're just living day to day. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
fantastic.
It's great, and it's inspired so many of his other future things.
Yeah, like, I mean, he was really one of the first people to kind of wholly make a cinematic universe.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, before I ever watched Clerks, I had watched Jay and Silent Bob.
Everybody has that, where they watch Jay and Silent Bob, they get none of the references, but like, this is a funny stoner movie. I sure enjoy this. And then you watch the other movies, you're like, wait, there's so many references in this fucking movie. It's insane.
It's awesome.
It's like, it's bordering on just like, basically someone sitting you down and being like, have you seen all these movies? Well, we're going to have every bit of all of them come into this movie.
Well, Kevin Smith not only inspired like his future stuff, but like in a way he inspired myself because in the short film we all did together, Come On, Trust Me.
So good. Check it out on Ian's channel.
You guys are named respectfully. Logan is Evan and Zane is Jay. But that's because Evan rhymes with Kevin Smith, and his best friend is Jason Mewes.
Yep. Yeah. I feel like you nailed it down pretty accurately too, as far as typecasting goes.
Yeah.
But that's all I have to say. I loved it.
All right.
I always love it.
Yeah, and we'll get into more specifics as of why. We'll talk about the little things that we love from the movie, the inside jokes that just have carried on for literal fucking decades at this point, when we come right back. Hey guys, we're back with Clerks, and I'm not just saying clocks in a Medea voice. We're talking about Kevin Smith's film Clerks. Now, Zane, when we went to break, you did the thing you're not supposed to do where you said something off the pod instead of on the pod. What were you asking again?
So I know that at some point in time, Jason Mewes, I've watched so many Kevin Smith movies where Jason Mewes will just start singing random little things, and I can't remember which of his little like songs goes in there.
I have your answer. In this movie, it's not a particular song, but the reason why that's in the movie, amongst so many other things, is a lot of Clerks is actually based around things in his own life. The Berserker character, for example, Walter Flanagan, his friend in high school, they actually went to the mall and they gave him this really ugly wig and he pretended to be a Russian to pick up chicks. And they did the Berserker, all that shit really was said. Like the make fuck, all of it was really said as like a joke, sure.
Yeah.
But that's where he drew the inspiration from. And you actually see Walter Flanagan in the movie playing multiple characters. He plays the kid's guidance counselor. He plays the offended patron that gets shown the really aggressive porn at the counter. But there's tons of that in the movie. And one of the things that Jason Mewes does in real life is he was way younger than the guys he was hanging out with. He was like 14 when they were like 19, 20, right? And the reason why they hung out with him is because they used to work at a recreation center, and he would come in and he would begin to fillet everything that was penis-like in the room. And they thought that that was incredibly funny. And he would sing little songs and tuck his dick back. And so when he was writing Jason Mewes, he's like, well, I'm just going to have him be this ridiculous character. I'm just going to have him play him. Because Jason Mewes at the time was not a fucking actor. I mean, he can kind of act now. I mean, bottoms up with Paris Hilton. You make your decision on whether Jason Mewes can act or not. I love him regardless. But at the time, he was like, well, let's just make JJ.
Yeah.
And that's what they did. So, and that just furthered throughout the rest of the View Askew universe, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Now, Ian, you're a mega super duper Kevin Smith fan like myself.
Yes.
What is like your favorite scene in the movie? Just like off the top, like what's something that really draws you and you're like, oh fuck, I love this part of Clerks.
Honestly, the fucking best part is them playing hockey on the roof.
It's so good.
It's iconic. Like
so good.
Closes up shop, says, fuck the quick stop. I told them I was doing this at this time. I'm doing it. And he fucking did it.
And, you know, he only got fucking 5 minutes of a game and one ball, but it's fine because it worked out.
And he wasn't even supposed to be here today.
Yeah, there's so many quotable lines, too. And like, the Dante character is just the ultimate relatable person because we've all been in that position with, like, a customer service job where it's like, they're calling you in on your day off.
Absolutely.
What do you do? You have to do it in some cases. But I do think like a lot of what they show in the movie is that Dante is very much like he's constantly self-sabotaging. Yeah. I think that's fair to say. And a part of it in the movie is just showing at the very beginning. He rolls out of a fucking closet and goes into work on his day off. It's like the ultimate like, yeah, you had to do it. But at the end of the day, you didn't really have to do it.
Yeah, it was your day off. You could have been like, sorry, man, I'm actually out of town. Mm-hmm. Like, but he just say some shit.
He just perpetually wants to be the victim, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that's part of the reason why he wanted to be with Caitlyn so bad, you know? Or, yeah, Caitlyn. And it's funny because a lot of Dante is written directly after Kevin Smith's own life and his own relationships at the time. And the Randall character was written about his friend Brian Johnson. Mm-hmm. But at the time they're shooting this movie, him and Brian Johnson aren't talking, which sounds like a you and me thing, by the way. And he writes the character Randall. He's like, oh, I'm going to play Randall.
Yeah.
And then, you know, he gets to making the movie and it's like, oh shit, Randall has like so much fucking dialogue. I'm going to give myself a silent character.
Yeah.
When that was originally for somebody else. And then we're just going to hire some random dude who was hanging out around sets, a friend of a friend, and force him to try out and him give one of the best performances in the whole movie.
Yeah.
I mean, the Jeff Anderson character, the Randall character played by Jeff Anderson, I mean, is easily one of the most enjoyable parts of the movie. Even when you fucking hate him, it's great.
Bro, like, fucking, as far as iconic lines go, chicks with dicks. Like, fucking.
Like, the way his delivery is just so perfect.
Yes,
right?
so great.
Like, and
it's nonchalant.
It doesn't come off even sometimes like acting. You know what I mean? But that is not who he is. He's a very like reserved kind of guy. He didn't even want to do the Hollywood thing. He went and like lived up in the mountains, but he plays this fucking snotty-nosed,
Like, just
fucking
asshole.
yeah, and it's so funny.
And
he's so likable. You don't even care.
I think the thing that made me just fall in love with the Randall character so much is there are so many of those times that you're talking to fucking like you're in a customer service job and you do want to fucking spit some water on somebody, or like somebody's like, oh, I'm going to try to trick you. And you're like, oh, you were trying to trick me? You were trying to be
I don't appreciate your
bitch?
ruse.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah. Like,
so good.
It's just such a great way to kind of flip that, especially having him juxtaposed to Dante, who's so like, oh, well, like, but I have to do it. And he's there the whole time like, what if you didn't? Nothing's going to...
Yeah.
The world's not going to end.
It's like, I want to rent a movie. You work at a video store. I want to rent a good movie. Like, he's just so fucking ridiculous, and he just does whatever he wants. Like, that's the character he is. He's just living his life the way he wants to. And his introduction's so great because you don't even know who he's going to be at the time.
Yeah.
And he walks up, and there's this girl waiting outside of the video store. And that whole Betty, like, it's just
Bet
like
you $20.
But the fact is, if you know who Brian Johnson is, based on like being aware of the Kevin Smith universe, that is that guy. He is that guy.
Oh yeah,
like, it's not an act. That dude really exists, and I'm sure he's very annoying in real life, but like, it's fucking great on screen.
Yeah.
All right, Zane. So, what's a scene that stands out to you?
So I think the scene that stands out to me would have to be the I love that intro for the Randall character when he shows up and he's like he starts it by just having a conversation with this girl who's clearly waiting to get in, and he's like, oh, what's going on with it? And she's like, oh, well, they're not open. Like, they said they were supposed to open it.
He's just
and
playing
he's
with
literally
her,
like just talking with her, and he's like, oh yeah, this whole thing, like, that's fucking crazy. This dude really needs to get off his ass. And then fucking hi, I'm that guy. Like, he's like,
bet you
that
$20 you're not going to get that movie.
He's like, that guy's an asshole. Hi, I'm that guy.
Yeah.
Like, it's just such a great way to really just instantaneously show you who that character is and who that character, what you can expect from.
He
having
literally
something
went
like
to
that
the
in universe.
funeral because he said it was the social event of the season.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't even really know that girl, but it's the social event of the season. I can't not go.
And then when he fucked everything up, he was like, well, that sucked. Moving on.
It's just
I
like,
just leaned on it.
it's like, I just leaned on it. It's like, the body fell out of the...
And I put it back in.
And I put it back in. It's just like, well, you got me there, Randall. And like, it's one of the best scenes, though, for me. This is one that I always go back to. And it really harps back on the idea of being physically represented in a movie, right? Which representation is so important. And this really is like not douchey, but just like the film bro-esque movie, you know?
Yeah.
Where they spend an entire scene talking about whether the contractors on the Death Star deserve to die in the circumstance they did. And it's this incredibly written, super fucking hilarious scene.
Yeah.
And maybe to some people, the scene was like a little goofy, maybe went on a little too long. But to people who get it, like the people who have those arguments all the time, you're like, fuck, that's me and my friends right there doing that shit.
It felt like you were just like, if we were just sitting here shooting the shit about like a movie, like, hey, you know that weird little like that thing, that throwaway thing that, like, isn't that weird? That's weird.
Just always like overly elaborating. Like, let me tell you why I think this about Dragon Ball. You know, like we do the same shit, and it's just so cool because there was nothing like that before that. You know what I mean? Like anything like it, and I think that's why it popped so effectively. And then right after, there are so many people trying to get on the hype, like American Pie and all these, like they tried to do what that movie did without even understanding the subculture. And I'm not shitting on American Pie. I'm just saying that movie totally sparked like the sharp-witted, like 20-somethings kind of category of filmmaking, or like teenage sharp-witted dialogue.
Well, I also think one of the things that gets forgotten so often with how much nerd culture is in the zeitgeist currently, it's hard to think back. None of us were alive when this movie dropped. And I remember growing up and liking nerdy shit, and it was like until after the Avengers, like the first Avengers movie dropped, nerd shit was still not cool.
Yeah.
Like, you were absolutely made fun of for talking about nerd shit, and people were like...
People were really asking what's a Nubian. Like, it was actually happening.
Yeah.
So, yeah. It's true. I mean,
so yeah, to have some like nerd culture of this caliber and for it to do well and springboard Kevin Smith's career is insane. Because this is like, had he tried to go to a studio immediately to have them fund it, they would have laughed in his face.
Yeah,
at that
for
point.
sure. Absolutely. Oh, you're just some fat weirdo from New Jersey. We're not going to give you money to make
like
a movie.
nobody's gonna want to see that.
Yeah.
And then people wanted to see that.
And the reason that he made the movie, the reason why he dedicated so much and dropped all the credit cards is based on a misunderstanding from him. He saw Slacker, right, in theaters, directed by Richard Linklater. And he thought, oh, that movie was made in Austin, Texas. Austin, Texas is a very big city. I could make a movie here. He had no idea that Austin, Texas was like the hub of fucking Texas. And because of that fundamental misunderstanding of geography, he became one of the most popular nerd pop culture icons that you can even think of.
Yeah.
So much so that he constantly wears the same outfit and then changes that outfit and it equally becomes iconic. It's like he's trying to sell action figures of himself. He wears the same thing for like 5 years and then changes it. It's fucking wild.
It's great.
It's fantastic. It's something that I want to do. It's like literally he's so inspiring in that sense. And this movie, it encapsulates that. Like, yeah, what's up?
I wanna hear more. I wanna talk more about Kevin Smith, but you still haven't told us your favorite scene.
Okay. Well, one of them was the Star Wars thing, but I think my like altogether like absolutely favorite scene, I think it boils down to the confrontation between Dante and Randall, and because it's oddly real. And the reason why is because you will, like, when you have a realization or like a tough talk moment in a movie, a lot of the times it feels very fabricated because people really don't confront each other that much in real life. A lot of things slide, right? Like if you actually have a problem with somebody or the person they are, 99% of the time it slides. But those it doesn't slide with are friends. And those confrontations are oddly specific and individual. And the argument between them felt incredibly real because it felt like a real argument between friends.
Yeah.
I feel like that exact situation has happened.
Yeah, of course. It happens between us, but I'm sure Ian's had friends where like the blow up has been equal or paramount where you're calling each other on your bullshit. Because there's also a general like, you know, it's hard to talk about emotions as like, you know, men don't like to talk about their emotions. It's not that it's hard, it's that we just seem to not want to. We're big old pussies about it. I'm not trying to put this on the backs of society. It's on ourselves. But when you see it represented like this, you can relate to it because you've definitely had conversations with friends that have that hard pressed, like, let me wrestle you around for a moment, blow shit up, and then tell you how it really is. That's just so earnest and real. Like, you can so relate to it.
And then
so that's why that scene just absolutely totally works for me. Like, I love it.
And then after everything kind of blows up and like comes to its head,
he does a fucking dumb dance and dances out the door, and that's some shit you actually do with friends.
You're like,
that's
okay,
so real.
We had that. Let's set it right.
Yeah, we acknowledge it from each other. There will be no apology spent. We just are going to acknowledge that the other one had fair points.
Yep. And move on.
And that's way more real than a lot of confrontation in films, especially comedies too.
Oh yeah,
like comedy confrontations are almost
beats around the bush.
They have to kind of beef it up in a funny way. They have to almost levity it because they're afraid of damaging the tone, right?
Yeah.
But this movie's like, no, he's gonna call Dante a dirty, rotten cheater, loser, fuck to his face because he's his friend, and you believe that.
Mm-hmm. So that's now. I want to start.
Oh, and the Chuli's gum scene.
That's that's
classic.
He put a fucking lung on the counter.
That's your lung.
Yeah. It is weirdly pro-smoking in a sense, but at the time, Kevin Smith was a 20-something-year-old who smoked.
Yeah.
So he's like, you know what? I'm sick of and maybe there's a certain extent of it, you know, like people just approaching you like, you know what you're doing is wrong. It's like, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I totally identify with that ideal, but it's really funny to see it represented in a movie.
I also love the scene of the guy going through and he's like, can I have some of the nice toilet paper? Can I have this nudie mag? Go ahead, not that nudie mag.
No,
I want
like
the other
that
one. Yeah,
the hemorrhoids.
And he goes through.
I wish we had Landon here so he could
it's-
do an accent that wouldn't be considered at all problematic.
Yeah. But no, just the idea that there are those times where you're dealing with a customer and you're just like, dude, fucking fine. Like, just please stop talking to me. Like, just off.
All
and,
wholly relatable.
yeah, it's just like
The
that
entire
full,
montage, right? With you're seeing the milkmaids and the video. I literally I've done both sides of this job. I've worked at a gas station and I was a manager of a video store in this century.
Yeah.
So let me tell you something. I know a few things about getting dumb fucking questions in a video store. Number one of them being, why aren't you guys closed down yet? Why the fuck are you here then if you don't think we should be open? Bitch. And then they get a bunch of shit and they act like it's all nostalgic and then they never return it and get charged mad late fees. Yeah. But that's besides the point. All those, like the milkmaid aspect of it or whatever, like all those intricacies they seem ridiculous on paper, but in reality it's kind of accurate. Like it's a parody of customers, but also like totally real, totally. Absolutely.
Because we've all dealt with people
like
that.
Yeah. You always think that couldn't be the case, and then you actually interact with somebody that's like that, and you're like, holy shit, there are people like this fucking unhinged. That's crazy. This unaware of their absolute surrounding. They have no idea where they're even walking right now. They don't even know where they are. And they're asking me where the Mentos are.
To this day, my favorite lesson that my father ever taught me was until proved otherwise, assume that everyone else you interact with is a fucking idiot. And I'm like,
that's got to be the most narcissistic thing I've ever heard. I love it though, but
you can also prove to yourself that you're a fucking idiot. I've got plenty of times where I'm like, God damn, I am dumb.
Yeah,
like,
I'm not short on those either.
Yeah, so it's like until they actively do something to prove that they're not an idiot, assume they might fuck some shit up or ask you dumb things. Like, just never go out into the world assuming that, like, oh no, like there's just going to be nothing but competence.
Yeah.
And so, but I do want to get from both of you guys. So this is something that is kind of wholly sculpted your outlook on a lot of different film stuff and everything. So what are the aspects of Kevin Smith that have really drawn you to him?
You want to go first?
Yeah, sure.
Go for it.
I love the fact that no matter what the criticism is or what the praise is, Kevin Smith does what he wants to do and isn't afraid to promote that and himself while doing so, and keeps it real 100%, man. That's hands down my favorite thing.
Yeah. It kind of go into the same thing as far as like why he inspires me. He has this mantra of why not-ism. Like you can surround yourself. It's like with you guys. Like I've tried to make so many YouTube channels with so many different people, but eventually I came around to this idea that you cannot start a YouTube channel, you cannot make a film, you cannot do this with people who are constantly asking you why. Why are you doing this? Why blah blah blah. The question at hand should be why not? Mm-hmm. And if you surround yourself with creatives like that, you're only going to, like, even in your failures, at least you're fully realized. At least your failures are a lesson versus like you're trying to get ahead of something. You're trying to stop an idea from whatever it may be. The why not-ism. And it's something it's something that people just have to remind themselves of. Like nobody is fully perfect at that. Everybody's a critic, even when they're the most open-minded person on the planet. But I just bring myself to that. If I disagree with an idea or I see in films like directors get all pissed off because they didn't get an exact thing the way they wanted it or whatever it may be, it's a collaborative effort. Everyone has to come together to make film, to make YouTube videos, to whatever. You're not going to get anywhere if you're always asking why. You're only going to make it somewhere if you're asking why not. And that's why he's a great director.
Yeah, hands down.
That's why he made a movie about a guy getting turned into a walrus and Nazi bratwurst fighting two teenagers in a gas station. And you know what? They both have their merit. So good for him.
Yeah.
They're all both 10 out of 10s for me. Oh, dude. Okay, so what is like, as far as, so let's get back to Clerks specifically, right? Okay. What are your thoughts on the Silent Bob, like, wisdom drop? Like moment, because that is something that he never really deviates from until the sequel of Clerks 2. But for the most part, it's always like Silent Bob doesn't talk, and then eventually he has the wisest thing to say in the movie. What are your thoughts on that as like a character?
I think that it's nice to have somebody who listens, so that, which also I just realized that
The reason why he always gives the best information is because he sits around listening to everybody.
well,
The ultimate analyst.
that, but I think that like that's why things like an example that probably was definitely influenced by this, Phineas and Ferb. Ferb, he only says one thing per episode, and it's usually like a oh hey, I'm gonna drop a little bit of knowledge. So
Well,
that
I mean,
when
it could have been Penn and Teller. I mean, there's other wacky groups where it's like one overly talkative person and one who doesn't talk.
But it's so powerful to have somebody who doesn't talk, who just sits there, listens, exists in the world, and then when they do talk, you listen.
Yeah, I do think in this movie his age shows really hard based on the information he gives, because it does get more wise. His like wisdom drop in this is like, bro, you should stay with the girl who makes you lasagna because most girls are just fucking hoes who cheat. I mean, like at some point that is kind of what he said.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it was a good lesson for him because it's like you're not appreciating the person in front of you. Mm-hmm. But it is funny as the movies go along, as the View Askew universe widened, hit the little like things he would drop became much more ethereal and like
a
absolute.
lot more profound.
And this one was like so direct, and it really felt like Kevin Smith like grabbing a hold of the audience and being like, "This is what I have to say to you."
Well, and also you said
because he learned it on his own. He
wrote
literally learned that from his own life experience that he made the wrong choice.
He wrote the character of Dante after himself,
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah.
I feel like that had to have been cathartic to look at him, like to look at himself and say like, here's this thing that I learned that I wish I could have told myself when I was in this situation.
Do you know why he's named Dante? I can tell you if you don't know. So all the different chapters, as well as where the film originally was going to go, which the original ending, you can actually, I have the director's cut if you ever want to watch it.
Yeah.
The original ending, Dante gets shot by a person robbing the convenience store. And the reason why his name is Dante is because the gas station itself, like the Quick Stop, not the gas, there's no gas. Well, except for those of Jay and Silent Bob. But the convenience store itself is like the circles of hell, and each breaking chapter is a new circle of hell. And his name's Dante, like Dante's Inferno.
Shit. Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say Dante's Inferno, but yeah, that's.
But it's crazy. Like once the film got bought by Miramax, they literally had one note, which is insane for an independent filmmaker. Wild as fuck. They're like, cut the very last scene out of the movie. It ruins the movie.
Yeah.
And let me verify that I think it kind of does.
Yeah.
I've watched it like that, and it's a real buzzkill. You see Randall, literally, the way it ends is Randall dances out the door, right? And then originally for you, like that throwing of the whatever is like the end of the movie. Mm-hmm. At the end of the movie, at this point, is Randall dances out, and then a guy walks in and then shoots Dante. And there are like elements that like make you think that this could happen at some point, you know, with the shutters being closed all day, and like there's hints that something bad could happen, but it is so startling when it does in that cut, and I'm so glad it got changed.
Yeah,
it's a way better movie for it.
Yeah.
It wasn't even just like a tone; it was a tonal like assault.
Yeah,
it was such a different vibe at the very end for them to do that.
Like I always love when in like an action movie or a horror movie or something, like you don't get the good ending, but for this like comedy, like that is such a weird way to try to end it.
Yeah. I think it's because, you know, he just was feeling artsy and he was vibing with himself, you know? Like, I think that's what it was. He's a young writer. He's writing his first thing, and he's just making a compilation of things he likes. He loves, like, smart, witty comedy. He loves the humor of his friends, but he's also an avid film fan. And so he wanted to make something, like, stoic and weird and Twin Peaksy, you know? But that's obviously what he didn't make, and I'm so glad he never made that because I liked it way better this way. All right, so let me ask you guys another question, okay? In regards to Kevin Smith, View Askew, whatever. With the Quick Stop and the iconery and whatever it may be, is there anything that you can think of in recent films that like has that substantial iconic staging? Like, or do you think that this is wholly original? Like the way that everybody knows what the Quick Stop is and it's the entire center of the movie. What would you compare it to? I'm just curious. I'm curious to see if maybe he had influenced others or if he was influenced himself on that idea of making it this one-stop shop.
Honestly, no. I think it's like wholly original.
Well, so I would say as far as like iconic landscapes,
I'm teeing up towards really insulting something. So go ahead. Not anything you said, by the way.
So you have the detention area from the Breakfast Club that literally you just show those desks in a library and people are like, Breakfast Club.
And he also is a big Hughes fan, so that could have been an inspiration. I always think of Ryan Reynolds Waiting, which is literally a hard ripoff of Clerks, where a bunch of people work at a restaurant. There's two shady drug dealers that are white that stand outside and sing and dance. And the whole thing is about how much they hate customers. You ever seen Waiting?
No.
Well, here's the thing about Waiting. It is literally a disgustingly aggressive ripoff of Clerks.
That sounds like it.
But it's gotten way more praised from more people. Like, more people know that it exists because it's a Ryan Reynolds, Justin Long film, you know? But, just like, but what's crazy is there's tons of things that have taken inspiration from it. Like, it's such an original idea to also make it all in one location. And he had learned that when he was shooting the movie. He was like, one of the things he was listening to, I think it was Ferreira or something, a director had mentioned, like, if you're making your first feature, make it all in one location. If you make it all in one location, you can, like, get it actually done. Write it on a location that's accessible to you. Don't make your first picture you write a science fiction thriller based on Mars, you know? Yeah. And I think that Kevin Smith was, like, one of the first true tried answers to that, where, like, somebody who had nothing, no attachments, no schooling. I mean, he went to Canada and did some film school, but not, like, a hardcore one. He just went, picked the location, listened to that advice, and created something. And that has really become what everyone else does. Yeah. Like, that's how you start your first feature, right? Like, you make it super simple and easy to do. And I feel like that inspiration of that point as well has really kind of shown across independent film.
Yeah, I agree.
Is there anything else we wanted to say about Clerks before we got into our game? I mean, we'll be talking about Clerks 2 in the future, I believe, with Ian, hopefully. Yeah. And then eventually, of course, Clerks 3. So we'll have more opportunity to ever come back if we miss something we wanted to talk about. But I think we should just get into the game.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we touched on everything important.
All right, we'll be right back. Hey, folks, welcome to I Need to Speak to Your Manager Right Now, the game. No, Zane. Thank you. In this game, we talk about our own experiences working in customer service and some of the more ridiculous stories that we had encountered doing so. Who wants to go first?
I shall.
Ian, please.
All right. Worst customer service story by far.
Oh, shit. This is good. I'm already excited.
At my restaurant, my fast food restaurant that I work at, I was actually on a break. Didn't get many because we were always busy and very understaffed. But I was on a break outside in my car, enjoying my 30 minutes, and I see some woman like start walking up to my window, and like I think, oh, she's gonna like come over and complain because she sees I'm in my uniform and like the line's long, blah blah blah. Well, she doesn't make it all the way to my window. She goes in front of the car next to me, my coworker's car, and I start rolling down my window because she like glances over at me and like makes eye contact with me. So I start rolling down my window like she's gonna ask me something, and I was like, "Yeah, what's up?" And she literally stops me and she goes, "Oh, nothing. I'm just peeing." Pulls down her pants and
get the fuck out of here.
She pisses like on the tire of my coworker's car, in between me and their car. And I hurry up and rolled my window back up. Like, what the fuck?
Like, this lady's going to pee on me, dude.
Deadass. And I just, like, was shaking my head in disbelief. And I, like, had to, like, look away and, like, got up, pulled up her pants, went back to her car in the drive-thru. And then I go back in for my break, like, 20 minutes later. Yeah, that's not all.
Did she, like, drop trow? Was she wearing a skirt? I need to ask questions.
She was wearing jeans.
So she was like,
and yeah,
she left it. She left it to Beaver, so to speak. That's insane.
It bare it all in the parking lot.
Oh my god!
Like of my restaurant. And
dude, she was naked, and you were afraid.
Yes, very afraid, honestly. But I go back in, and I'm like, just thinking about it, and so I tell like some of my coworkers, I'm like, hey, this just fucking happened outside. I just saw some lady piss in like the parking lot. A few minutes later goes by. Person in drive-thru calls me over saying they're having some issue with somebody in drive-thru. I go over reluctantly. It's my job. I was like, yeah, what's up? I look out the window, and it's the lady that pissed on my coworker's car. And she's trying to say that we gave her empty drink cups only with ice and no drinks in it, which is crazy. Why would I hand out an empty drink cup?
Yeah, I mean, you would know,
drinks?
even if you got the wrong, okay, I understand the wrong drink, but you are holding the cup when you hand it, you're like, this feels kind of light.
Yeah, so I was like, this is bullshit. And I was like, okay, well, I can't just give you 2 more free drinks. Just bring me the cups back and I'll fill them up. And so she was like, no, I need my 2 free drinks. Like, you owe me 2 free drinks. And I was like, okay, without the cups as proof that you didn't get liquids in your cup, I can only give you 1. I'll be willing to work with you. I'll give you like 1 medium drink.
You shouldn't have even bartered, dude.
No.
You're being too nice.
I hand her the drink and she's like, where's my other drink? And I was like, I told you, you're only getting 1. Tossed the drink through the window, hit me, spilled drink all over me.
Oh my God.
I just closed the window, locked it. She started yelling. I just stared at her till she got back in the car and drove away. And like
all my
coworkers were just like staring at me like, did that just happen? I was like, yep, that happened. Had to change my shirt, had to change my mask,
bananas,
everything.
dude.
But yeah, by far worst customer service.
Wow, I might have you beat though. I have some pretty bad ones. I gotta tell you, but that was
That was my personal
that was pretty
worst
bad.
experience.
I have a couple of pretty bad ones. But do you want me to go? Or do you want to go?
I've got a little one to match up with his. It wasn't a lady peeing on somebody's car. It was somebody. It was while I was working at a clothing store. One of my managers.
God, I have so many of those too.
One of my managers came up to me. I mainly worked the cash register because I like to talk. And I was constantly selling the cards for the clothing company that we worked for. I did that fairly well. So they were like, oh, you stay on cash register. Unless nobody's here, then you go and you fold stuff because the only thing that you're good at is talking to people. So they would basically just like hide me away in like a corner of the store until there was somebody ready to check out and they're like, go sell a card. But one of the managers, while I'm working like the cash register, she's like, Zane, as soon as you wrap up with this customer, could you please like come to the fitting room to talk to me real quick? And I was like, okay, yeah, like what's up? So wrap up with that, have somebody watch the front for me, and then I go back there and then she's like, I found shit on a jacket in the in one of those fitting rooms. Like somebody had like set down like one of the jackets, taken a dump, and then wrapped it up in the jacket to hide it.
Like a bento box.
Yeah.
Like, here's your lunch.
But
that's ridiculous.
The girl had like picked it up, saw it, dropped it, freaked out, and she was like, "I can't go in. I'll throw up, and then I'll have to clean up the throw up, and then I can't."
So then there'll be poop and throw up in the dressing room.
So I had to go from the front, like collect all of this, and it wasn't like they had also grabbed something else to wipe with. So like I'm like in this fitting room, and I'm like, I don't get paid. This was like my college job, so I'm like, I'm a freshman in college. I'm first time on my own, and my manager's just like, "Hey, clean up this shit in the fucking dressing room." And I'm like, I'm not even one of the managers. Why are you not doing this? I hate this. So yeah, that's to go along with that. But
all right, I got 2 stories that I think both beat both of yours, and I'm not trying to be my stories are crazier than you, Andy. I just think I piss people off more. So, I'm just going to start with the one related to dressing rooms. So I used to work at a store and I was working the dressing room, and it was actually the same company you worked at, just a different location. And I am on walkie. It's my first time running the dressing room, and this part's sad. So just prepare for this sad part, but it gets really crazy. There's this girl crying, and I realize it's because her mother is like hitting her. And I'm like, so I called the front. I'm like, hey, yo, like there's some fucked up shit happening back here. And then one of the ladies in another dressing room runs out of her dressing room naked, starts pounding on the door of the woman like hitting her child. Those women begin to fight each other. of which I am not trying to get in the middle of it. I just happen to be. So I got like titty hid in my face, right? And then I got a total stranger who's punching her child now punching at me. And I call to the back room and I'm like, guys, like code red. I don't know what the fuck to say, but like there's some crazy. And then the walkie at that point knocked away from me. And Franny can back this up. She used to work with me there. This is a true story. So eventually a manager comes in with a bag wrapped around her arm because I guess from her perspective, I said code red. And I'm very famous for like going silent on people if they know what I want them to do, like in a funny way. And she's like, is it poo? And there was no response. So she assumed it was poop. So she came in with a bag around her arm ready to pick up like some shit. And when she sees them fighting, I'm like, you are not prepared for this situation. Bop, getting punched all over the place. Finally, they separate them. The police show up. And then I'm trying to get the woman back to her fitting room, but they're all locked. So I have a key. Currently, I handed her a random shirt to just like cover herself, like a big boy shirt. And I'm just like, hey, she says, this is my dressing room. I'm like, okay. I open the door. It's a different naked lady in there who throws a hanger at me. Wow. That's not even my craziest story, kids. Let's move on to story number 2.
Wait. I gotta.
Oh, and they named it. They named it a Code Logan. There you go.
Oh. I've got a good story. I've got a good customer service story.
You know what?
While I was chaos.
We need that. Not everybody's evil.
Yeah. So one of the first times that I got a card from somebody wanting to like endorse me, wanting to produce me, was also at that job. It was after nobody was going up to register, so they were like, "Hey, go to the kids section in the back and just start folding clothes back there because it's an absolute disaster." So I'm back there folding clothes and everything, and then I hear this like baby crying, and the dad, like the mom and the dad are there. The mom's like trying to, and the dad's like, "Oh, would you please?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, no, life must be so difficult being a baby. Like, oh, you don't have to pay rent. If you puke yourself, somebody cleans it up. Constant free.
You puke yourself?
You puke yourself." And I'm just like, so like, I just start like making fun of this dude's baby. And he's like, "Wow, you're really funny. I actually do this thing at the, it's a place down in Lexington called Comedy Off Broadway that he's like, hey, go check this out. Like, if you want to come to our open mic nights, I'll go ahead. Like, I'll be able to like write you in." And I was like, "Bro, I'm making fun of your child right now, and you're wanting to."
He's like, "My child sucks."
Yeah.
Let's make fun of it. All right. Let's go back to the dark side.
Okay.
One last story, and then we got to get Ian out of here. He's a busy man. He's a director. Of course, you guys should subscribe to his YouTube channel. It'll be listed in the description. I don't know what it says under his name, but his YouTube channel will be in the description. Guys, the last story. So I was working. I was a video store manager, by far the most qualified I've been for a job ever. And it was in a kind of bad neighborhood because, you know, like they still used a video store. You know what I mean? Like the richer neighborhoods, they're like, we just own everything. So like they don't need to like go to the video store. And I was walking into work, and there seemed to have been like a homeless woman sleeping outside. Now, I'm not one to like try to diffuse the homeless or approach them. Like they're human beings, so I try to be respectful. So I didn't go anywhere near the person, but then it got to be like, we're like 4 hours into the day and this person hasn't moved. And I'm like, oh my God, is she like fucking dead? So what happened is me and, I think it was actually Travis, my friend Travis. Maybe it wasn't Travis. Maybe it was Robert, but I can't remember. One guy went with me. I think it was Robert. And he checked her pulse. Nothing. So I'm officially freaking out. So I call like the cops, the ambulance and everything. I'm thinking, holy shit, I just found a dead person outside. And what happened is they came. They like tried to wake her up. Nothing happened. They start loading her into the ambulance. She springs awake and lunges at me. Zonked out of her mind on drugs. And I'm just like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like, I don't know what, I was so stricken by it. I apologized to her for her attacking me. Because that's what you do in customer service, because the customer is always right, even if they want to murder you.
You do have Dante luck.
Yeah.
I do, don't I?
Yeah.
And there's so many other stories, but those are the two that like really stand out for me. But that was just so fucking insane. So I guess that she was like really drugged out. Yeah. And I don't know, maybe she had gone into a comatose state, or Robert just doesn't know how to fucking check a pulse. But I mean, dude, I've never seen a dead. I mean, that was the deadest motherfucker I've ever seen. You know what I mean? Like, that was the deadest looking motherfucker I've ever seen in my life. And when she came back to life, it was a weird sensation of like this, like a half a second of, is this The Walking Dead?
Do I put her in the ground?
Because the reaction was so, I'm going to fucking rip your face off. And then she lunged at me and asked for, like, low-key just asked for, like, a water. And I was just like, you're alive? I was freaked out, and I was like, I'll get you a water. And then the cops told me, like, don't get her a water. Like, don't talk to her. But anyway, guys, like I said, the customer is always right, even if they're trying to murder me. And I think that's the end of this game. I think that's a good stopping point. Yeah, so great round. Go ahead and hit that applause button, buddy. I think that was a good round for everybody. You can find Ian over on his channel. He posts like short films, and we're actually in one. He has a really dope reel you guys should watch. If you're somebody who's looking for like a director of something and you have any sort of influence, that's the fucking guy right there. Our little Kev Smith right here. Also, Zane does Twitch, I guess. And if you like my stuff, you can go over to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Logan Tyler. It's my second channel. You can check out interviews that I do with people, stuff like that. Or just subscribe to this channel. We post fun, good movie, fan film content. It is the best. So make sure to subscribe, like, whatever, and leave your comments down below of what you thought of Clerks. All right. Peace out.